Let's say that you are a filmmaker working on a project where you are shooting anamorphic and you have to overcome one of the biggest shortcomings of anamorphic, and that is minimum focus. You want to get very close, but your standard anamorphic lenses simply won't let you. Enter the Cooke 65mm T 2.6 macro, a lens that pushes the boundaries of inflation. You could buy it for $32,000, but if you don't like it, no returns allowed. And this lens is so specialized that there are almost no alternatives. It stands nearly alone in an anamorphic macro monopoly. Well, that is before Laowa came in with this, a 60mm T 2.9 1.5x S35 macro 1:2, and it's a whopping $30,000 less than that Cooke lens, so let's check it out. The Laowa comes in a long rectangular box. Inside, everything is nestled in foam. There is a lens support bracket, an EF mount, that is the Canon EF, shims, screws, and warranty info, a handful of small tools, and the lens itself. Plastic rear lens cap reveals this is a PL mount lens, which is by far the most common and I would argue the strongest mount for cinema. Metal tension front lens cap, and that is it. This is a lens that feels like it was forged from a solid block of iron. Weight is a substantial 2.5 pounds, and by the time you add an adapter and your camera, you are approaching a 5-pound setup. Starting at the rear, all metal mount, no electronics, no weather sealing here. The aperture control ring is next, T2.9 to T22, and it's labeled on both sides. Very smooth, light to rotate with a nice level of dampening. On top, there is a Nanomorph 1.5x anamorphic label, and the focus ring is next. It's nice and light to turn, smooth, good dampening again, and the rotation is about 270 degrees. It is labeled in feet on one side and meters on the other side. Laowa branding here, and on either side you have lens specs 60mm T 2.9 S35 macro 1:2. On the bottom you have some screw holes for the lens support and a 77mm filter thread. Around the front there is a compact front lens element, no writing, just a clean circular flat piece of glass. Inside there are 20 elements in 14 groups and a 13 blade diaphragm. As this is a cine lens, I threw it on the most cine camera that I own, the Sony FX30, and here are the results. Ready, set, go. Alright, I know what you guys are thinking. The acting roles are going to come pouring in. You'll see me on the big screen very shortly. And I do want to add that I didn't use any filters or LUTs with those samples that you just saw, unlike my previous video where some of you got upset about the highlights going too bright. Anyway, in short, this lens is really, really good. I've never used anything like it, and it's not perfect, but it is a nice piece of gear that allows you to get some shots that are simply impossible with regular anamorphic lenses. And yes, you can go down the rabbit hole of buying diopters, which are basically magnifying glasses for the front of your lens, but ultimately that compromises the optics and it degrades the image quality. It is a cheaper route to take for sure. In terms of sharpness, this lens is not clinically sharp wide open. It's consistently average in sharpness, I'd say, across the frame. Stop down, things improve, but I found that even at t2.9, the image was adequately sharp, at least for video. There is a little bit of pincushion distortion and a touch of vignetting, but chromatic aberration appears to be well controlled, as does Laowa. Now let's talk about anamorphic qualities. In terms of aspect ratio, this is a 1.5x anamorphic lens, which means after you de-squeeze it, you will get a 2.66 to 1 aspect ratio, which is wider than a 2.39 or 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio. So you can crop a little bit of the sides in, which is good in a sense because it reduces vignetting, but bad in the sense that you are deleting sensor data, and in the end, the result is a lower resolution image. Still, there are many anamorphic lenses that are even 2x, so 1.5x seems like a happy medium. In terms of bokeh, you get some really nice ovals with this nanomorph. They aren't perfect ovals, they are a little bit squared off in the center of the frame, and they begin to cat eye a little bit in the edges, but overall the look is distinctly anamorphic. The balls themselves are clean, with almost no outlining, no onion rings, no real issues. And then there is the flare. This lens comes in 3 flare options: blue, amber, and silver. The one that I have here is silver, and you could see that by the silver ring around the body right here. The other ones are amber or blue if you decide to go that route. So with very bright light sources, you get a nice horizontal line across the frame. There are some other flare elements, but they are typically smaller and don't distract too much from the main flare. I found the flare quite pleasing, and in case of the silver flare version, which I have, it takes on the color of the light source itself. The minimum focus on this lens is really incredible. It is spec'd at 9.45 inches, but that is from the sensor on the camera. So take a look at the length of this lens itself. It means you can get about an inch from your subject and still nail focus, getting that 1 to 2 magnification. I only have one complaint about this lens, and that is I wish there was more focus throw when adjusting further than about a meter in front of you. This lens is just like many other macro lenses in a sense that although you can use it to shoot subjects that are further away from you, it takes a high level of precision to nail that focus because small moves shift the focal plane a lot. But I guess that is why there are a number of other lenses in this nanomorph series that are not macros. Those are better suited really for further distant subjects. This one is for the close-ups. Now this Laowa is not cheap. It is compared to the Cooke lens that it competes against, but it still comes in at a price of about 2,000 US, just under that. For an APS-C lens, that is a lot. However, I suppose if you are looking at shooting some indie film or some fancy music videos, this line of nanomorph lenses from Laowa is superb for the money. I wish I had unlimited budget money because then I could go out and buy or rent that Cooke lens and compare it to this one because it's just a guess of mine. I think that they are a lot more similar than most people expect. I can't believe that there is a $30,000 US price difference. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.